Alright, what just happened on your screen is a summary of everything that has been happening in the month of May. And something that really caught my eye is the shoe throwing incident that was in Migori. And if you look at history, shoe throwing incidences are a sign of outrage, or are a sign of outrage and anger towards the administration, the governing administration. And what we witnessed was a really shocking, because it is something that is supposed to be seriously taken, especially by the intelligence. But what happened is that it was dismissed as an accident, where someone was trying to record the president and someone akagonga the shoe and it went flying towards the president. So that is something that also caught my eye, or caught my attention in the month of May. Another thing that caught my attention in the month of May is on the attack of journalists. That one I have mentioned also. And something else is on the current trend where people are using artificial ways of maintaining their body, or artificial ways of ensuring that they are fit. And this we witnessed with when it comes to Pretty Vichy. We have what is his name? We have a situation where people are using artificial ways or injecting themselves to have their body weight reduced. And this is something that, personally, from where I sit as a gym person, as a gym rat, I think it's something that we should also, I don't know how people take it, but it looks like it's not a good thing to someone's health. Activities like what I mentioned before on uniting people through sports is something that should be embraced. That is on the uniting the world through speed and strength, that will be happening on 31st May. That is something that should be embraced, especially when it comes to having a fit body and ensuring that you have good mental health. Encouraging people to go for artificial ways of maintaining their body is not something that should be encouraged at any way in life. And you should also look at statistics of those who have used natural remedies, where patience is key and having a good diet is also key, and how they have really managed to maintain their self and their state of mental health, how they are as people. It is something that should be embraced, or should be copied, or should be made public, or should be encouraged. But encouraging people to use other means, not something that should be encouraged. And also on the issue of the art and how we promote our artists as a country, it is something that I think we should also be given freedom to choose who we support and who not to support. That is when it comes to where the artists perform and where they don't perform. This is something that should not be predicted by our leaders or by those who are in authority. So those are just some things that happened during the month of May. And as I promised you earlier, that we are now ready to have an interview on mental health, that is emotional intelligence at work. And we will be joined by Mercy Kaikai, who is a psychologist and founder Sparked Conversation, that is coming to you live via Zoom. Mercy is joining us via Zoom, and from us here, we are live from Kenyatta University. That is KUTV in studio. That interview is coming in a bit. With emotional intelligence, and Mercy is joining us online. Mercy, how are you? Mercy, if you can hear me.
Hi, hello. Can you hear me?
How are you this morning?
I'm good, Sylvia.
We're so pleased to have you joining us right here on Biashara Tuesday, a show that brings different minds, the young and old, all on board for a conversation of empowering them, especially in their business endeavors or economically, and really fostering entrepreneurship spirit. And this morning we are having a very interesting discussion. Before we get into it, Mercy, kindly, I would like for you to introduce yourself.
Thank you again, Sylvia. My name is Marcy. I'm the lead psychologist and founder of Spark Conversations, a mental health space that is rooted in empathy, storytelling, and offering age-aligned therapy services. I also believe in normalizing mental health conversations that help and that can help in creating spaces where people feel safe, heard, and supported.
Very interesting. From your experience as a mental health practitioner, how is this conversation taken, especially when it comes to the workplaces? Is it something that is seen as an essential thing, or something that people really despise?
Okay, so currently in our country today, I don't think emotional intelligence is something that people are practicing openly. Being able to share your emotions or controlling your emotions in the right time, or also, how can I say, being able to manage and understand. It's not something that everyone talks about in our workspace. It's not supported. Let me just say that, yeah.
So it's not supported. Maybe it's because someone may not understand what exactly it is. So how would you define, or how would you describe emotional intelligence, and why is it important, especially at workplaces?
Okay, emotional intelligence is basically the ability to be able to recognize, um, understand, manage, and also how it influences your own emotion and that of other people. So it's basically it's being smart with your feelings. Yeah. So that is how I describe emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence also has like five components. There are five components of emotional intelligence, and that includes self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills.
So you've mentioned the five elements. Would you kindly go deeply into these five elements of emotional intelligence? Because it's not just mentioning that self-awareness, and it's something that goes deep, I believe. So how would you define these five components, and how can we embrace it?
Okay, that's a very good question, Sylvia. With self-awareness as being the first component of emotional intelligence, it's basically getting to recognize your emotions, getting to know how you react, how different emotions or different thoughts affect you and affect your behavior also, or also how it affects your thought patterns. Self-regulation is being able to manage your emotions as they come about. Sometimes we get these impulsive emotions and not being able to know how to manage it, it can be very disruptive to your day-to-day chores or work. And then when we come to talk about motivation, motivation is basically being driven to achieve something, let's say let's put it in a more positive way, being more self-driven. That's what I'd say about motivation. And then we have empathy, being able to put yourself in another person's shoes. Let's say, for example, you're arguing with someone else, or you're trying to offer feedback to someone else in the workspace, and it feels like the other person is actually not getting you, and maybe they're getting angry. Being able to put yourself in their shoes and explaining, trying to understand how they're receiving the feedback from their end is also very important. The last one is social skills, being able to communicate effectively and respectfully, in the workspace also.
Is there a connection between emotional intelligence and intelligence quotient, like people who are smart, believed to be highly intelligent emotionally, and those who are not smart, believed not to be highly intelligent? Is there a relationship between EQ and IQ?
That's a very good question. I believe the other name for EI or I, it's EQ. It's basically emotionally quotient. So, can you please repeat your question again?
I'm asking if there is a relationship between emotional intelligence and the intelligence quotient. Like people are believed to be having high IQ, to be those people who are having higher rates or higher level of emotional intelligence as compared to people who are having low IQ.
Um, I'd not say that there's a big difference, because emotional intelligence is something that you learn. It's a skill that you acquire. We're talking about the IQ, um, I believe someone with high IQ can also lack emotional intelligence, and someone with low IQ can also have very high emotional intelligence. So it's just a learned skill that you practice over time.
Very interesting. Now, talking about learning, how well can someone be a student of this class of emotional intelligence? How is it learned?
Okay, so when we talk about learning about emotional intelligence, we're talking about, um, first of all, it's something that you practice. As I said earlier, it's something that you practice every day. It's something that just doesn't appear. There is, when we are born with a bit of the emotional intelligence, but now the one thing we can do is practice it, and you can do this by do you receive feedback. You can ask for feedback from friends and relatives or anyone who's around you to get to know yourself better. You can reflect on yourself. That is practicing mindfulness, basically getting to understand. Oh, this is how I react when I'm faced with a difficult situation. So what am I supposed to do in this instance? You can also do a lot of journaling. But the journaling helps with understanding your triggers. Let's say, for example, um, getting to understand what kind of communication, what kind of talk triggers my anger. It's also very important. Yeah, so emotional intelligence can be learned.
Something that can be learned based on having self-awareness of what triggers you, how best you can react to the triggers, and how well you can talk to others to avoid triggering them also in a way that will also trigger you. And if I understand right, that is what we are talking about.
Yeah.
Do you think there is this case of toxic work environments? Is there something like that? And if it is, how can we go about managing such environments?
Okay, so how do you know you're working in a toxic work environment? One, there's the constant micromanaging, and then we have poor communication. There's favorism in the office space. There's lack of trust. There's no space for you to actually express yourself, really. So how are you able to cope with such an environment that is basically a toxic work environment? First of all, you have to learn how to set boundaries. Setting boundaries in the office space helps to limit over functioning or emotional uh, overing, over investment. In that, let's say, for example, if people get to understand these are my boundaries, boundaries are basically what protects you as a person. from other people trying to harm you. It's like a fence, yeah. And then we are building support system, having people in the space where they can actually help you deal with your emotions as they come, or support you when something is not okay in the workspace. Something else I'd also say is document your interaction. Sometimes it's okay to protect yourself when you're documenting some kind of event that happened that was not favored towards you, or something that was wrong in the office space. Document it. Something else is know when to exit. Let's say, for example, you're having an argument with with someone, and you feel like this argument is basically not going anywhere, and you're going to stay here for a long time, and you're going to end up getting angry, and you're not going to be able to cater to your emotions. Walk away. Break away from the argument altogether.
Okay. And do you think sometimes our leaders or people in charge of the workplaces contribute to cases where we are having toxic environments, or is it just something that is based on the employees' relationship? And if it is about leaders, can anything be done differently, especially with leadership styles? How can things be done differently to create a more stable and healthy workplaces?
That's a very good question also. Imagine a space whereby your leaders in the workplace are more emotionally intelligent. That means they're able to solve conflict when it arises in a very intelligent way, and the conflicts get dispersed altogether. So, an emotionally intelligent leader, or leaders in the workplace who have embraced mental health and have also embraced um, emotional intelligence in itself, are able to lead and create a ripple effect in the office, where if you're able to work in a space where um, there is no the how can I say this? There's no stressors. They're able to reduce pressure in the workplace, like checking in with you. I believe like leaders in the workplace are the ones who can be able to create a ripple effect and ensure that the workplace is a place where everyone feels safe and embraced at the same time, and there's no space for creativity. So leaders are the backbone. Let me just say the backbone of creating the emotional intelligence in the workplace.
Creating a good work environment. Now, sometimes when someone is really self-aware and they tend to avoid conflicts, such a person may be termed to be weak, or sometimes being someone who chooses peace is perceived to be weakness. How can we address such situations, and why is it that behaving in that way you are termed as a weak person?
Okay, I'd not say that being emotionally intelligent is a sign of weakness, or being in a space where you're able to be vulnerable with your emotions is a sign of weakness. I'd say it's a sign of strength. Being able to respectfully um, share your thoughts and pass the information across the room, and not having people judge you. It's not. I don't believe it's a sign of weakness at all. It's a sign. It's a sign of emotional intelligence. Actually, this is a person we should be embracing more.
Do you think as a country we have done enough when it comes to awareness, when it comes to self awareness journeys? That is what drives us to go to work, the motivation behind it, what triggers us. Generally, do you think we have done enough sensitization when it comes to embracing emotional intelligence? If not, what can we do different to ensure that that is really embraced?
What we can do is increase the amount of. Currently, Spark Conversations is working on offering employee assistance programs, and with the employee assistance programs that we are trying to bring in, one of the things we like to share with the people in the office space is emotional intelligence. We'd like to help them with workshops for us to be able to train them on how to practice emotional intelligence and how to grow it over time. As we said before, it's not something that just pops up, it's something that you learn with time. And with the fact that right now after COVID, most people have started to actually embrace mental health in its own. And I believe where we are going as a country is embracing the EAP programs, embracing the trainings that come up, and helping the people in the office get to understand the importance of emotional intelligence, because it doesn't just help us in our workspace, it also helps us in our personal lives. Yeah.
Currently, with the upcoming of technology, we have so many people stuck on their screens, and they think that they have a community around them because of having massive following, massive comment sections that are active with comments streaming in every now and then. Most people think that they have a community around them. So, and how can how does that influence the level of emotional intelligence, especially among the youths? Because as we have seen in the recent days, we have had, especially the Gen Zs, who will go to work and then go for lunch and then send their resignation letter using an Uber, because they think maybe the work environment is not conducive for them. The influence on social media that, you cannot, your boss cannot do this for you. So how do you think social media is affecting our levels of emotional intelligence?
Okay, so that's a very good question also. In social media, let's talk about when it comes to self-awareness, that is first. Recognizing how scrolling affects your mood. Because sometimes when you're just there scrolling, there are a few things you'd see, there are a few things that will trigger you. Noticing that if you're posting from a place of insecurity, of confidence, is also very important when it comes to understanding your self-awareness. When we're talking also about self-regulation as the other component, I'm going to talk in terms of that. Self-regulation, thinking before you comment or post in anger. That shows a level of emotional intelligence, in that it shows you're able to manage your emotions. Are you able to manage your emotions when you're in social media? Like also, for example, as you said, sending a resignation through just texting a resignation letter, not actually talking about it with your bosses. That shows that there is some level of self-regulation that is missing. Um, Understanding others' perspective behind the posts, and not just judging, not being immediate to judging, and actually just trying to understand when they were posting this, was it from a point of vulnerability? What type of compassion should I offer this person? That is also something else we can talk about. Social skills, being how can we offer, how can we, like, we talked about communicating respectfully and effectively. When we're in the social media, I've noticed even when you go to TikTok and you've posted something and someone doesn't like what you posted, they make very nasty comments that I don't believe they understand that it can actually affect the other person, and it can affect them in a very negative way. So this shows that that person is not empathetic to start with. Yeah. So that is basically what I can share for that.
Okay. Now, there is this perspective. There are people who believe that some people only understand through violence. I don't know if you've come across such sentiments, that this one will only understand through violence. And it's majorly the leading cause of violence, maybe at workplaces, when someone says, wacha nitamwendea, ananichezea, and it comes out with anger, and then someone responds in a very aggressive way. And most of the time you get that when someone responds in an aggressive way, they have a positive feedback. And it also happens when it comes to homes, the leading cause of domestic violence. When someone says that this person only responds to violence. So what do you think is the major cause of such thought, or that perspective, where someone thinks that people only react to violence, and that is how they bring positive reactions?
Okay. That's also a really another interesting question. So let's say violence. Violence comes from not being able to. understand what emotional intelligence is in the first place. Imagine a person who doesn't know anything about emotional intelligence. And this person doesn't know how to regulate their emotions, doesn't know the importance of being self-aware, understanding where all these emotions are coming from. This person doesn't know the importance of empathy, does not understand that empathy is something that is very important. Understanding that even with the violence, how is this other person going to feel if I hit them? How is this other person is going to feel when I emotionally abuse them or say something that is something ugly to them? Yeah. So I'd say like there's lack of emotional intelligence there, and most people are not well taught or aware that it is also present. Yeah, this person doesn't even practice social skills, doesn't understand. There's a part where you need to talk to the other person respectfully if you want to get a message across. So I'd say it's basically the lack of emotional intelligence that is
Okay,
creating the
now in
violence.
our workplaces, also just slightly related to coming out aggressively, we have different backgrounds, that is from ethnic groups, the regions we come from. And this is a case sometime back when in class, or let's talk about a classroom perspective. There is a lady teacher who is teaching maybe a school, uh, not to be biased, but maybe a school in the northeastern region, or maybe a school in the regions where they perceive female not to be having voices. So we have already a challenge of that is cultural norms, where we see that teacher or a certain gender is perceived to be having a stronger voice than the other gender. So in such cases where there is cultural diversity and different beliefs when it comes to ways of communication, uh, it leads to creating tensions on how people interact at workplaces. How best can we address such a challenge?
Okay, so basically when we talk about culture, we are referring to shared beliefs, values, customs, and behaviors. Yeah, we also have to understand like in Kenya here currently, we come from different tribes. Different tribes have different beliefs, different values, different customs, and behaviors. When we're talking about behaviors, and that is when we're talking about as a woman not being heard or not feeling like the other person is actually listening to what they're trying to say, or even they're not even trying altogether. This is something we as a nation, I believe there's change coming, and change is coming very soon. And we are seeing that, like for example, there's a tribe that believes in training women to give them, um, to make them more responsible, to make them hear what their husband is actually trying to say. So these are things that, with proper psychoeducation, can be removed from the society. These are things that are not going to be here for too long because, believe me, change is coming. Let me just say that.
But
Yeah.
it's still something that is really a challenge. Do you believe that it is a major challenge of having emotional intelligence practiced at workplaces?
Yeah, it is a challenge. Let me say it is a challenge as of now in our country. But anyway, emotional intelligence EAP. Let's say as I talked about the employee assistant programs, we are planning on doing. We are not planning on doing the kind of employee assistant programs that are reactive. We are planning on being more proactive. We're planning to walk that journey with the people in the offices, and we're not going to look at this person as a single entity or as an employee. We want to look at this person as a whole human being. Because let's say, for example, we have John. John is a manager at work. John is a father. John is a brother. How is John with friends? So we want to look at the person as a whole. If we're able to change that and offer this psycho-education and this training, it can also reflect, and the ripple effect will definitely be there, even in their personal lives also. Yeah.
Now, as we round this up, what do you think needs to be done differently to create a more safe place at work? And this is not just in offices, even for those who are selling by the roadside, those who are hawking, those who are in matatus, all these places are workplaces. How different can we, what can we do differently to ensure that there are safe places at work where someone anticipates anticipates their work, not a situation where someone thinks about job and they're like, what, it is morning again. How can we make our workplaces safe?
Okay, so let me say, like right now in our country, there's a lot of stigma around mental health. In as much as people are trying to embrace it, the stigma is still there. And it's gonna take us time for us to achieve a nation of where everyone is freely to talk about mental health and they're not judged at any point. In order for us to create safe working environments and places where people feel safe, generally, it's places where people feel safe in the workplace. We need to be able to psychoeducate. I'd just say psychoeducate, more communication, more action in the leader's part, or more action on the therapist's part, more action on the people's part who are actually working in these spaces. So, in order for us to create safe spaces, we all need to work together as a group and be more open minded. Yeah.
Being more open-minded. That is very well said. Now, Kakai, we are bringing this to an end. I would like for you to give us any last remarks that you have for our viewers at home. Any advice that you could give, and this will serve as the last take.
Okay, so what I'd say is I'm really thankful for this opportunity, Sylvia, again. I believe with mental health, it's something we can all embrace. It's something we can all speak freely of. It's something we can talk about. So let us be more open. Let us be more open to talking about it and sharing and psychoeducating on the part of the therapist and the mental health practitioners. And also for the rest of everyone else out there, be more open-minded. Just be more open-minded to learning and embracing new possibilities to create a space where you're able to grow. So that's what I'd say.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much for making time for us this morning. That is Mercy Kakai, who is a psychologist and founder, Sparked Conversation. That is Mercy Kakai. And uh, uh, apologies, Mercy, for mentioning your name wrongly. It is Mercy Mukai. Thank you so much for making time for us this morning. A conversation on emotional intelligence at workplaces. And just as she has said, it is something that needs to be practiced, not something that you were born with. The fact that you have high IQ does not mean that you are emotionally intelligent. Thank you so much, Mercy.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Now, come